Breaking Arsenal plot stunning. Vinícius Júnior move as Bruno Guimarães transfer battle explodes. Gunners, this could become one of the biggest transfer stories of the entire summer. For weeks, Arsenal supporters have been waiting for another major breakthrough in the transfer market. Now, reports suggest that Mikel Arteta and Arsenal's recruitment team are working on two sensational targets that could completely transform the club. If you love Arsenal as much as we do, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's dive straight into today's massive Arsenal news. Come on, you Gunners. One name is already familiar to every Arsenal fan, Bruno Guimarães. The other is a name nobody expected to hear linked with the Emirates. Real Madrid superstar Vinícius Júnior. At first glance, it sounds unbelievable. One of the world's best attackers. A player who has won the Champions League, La Liga, and established himself among football's elite, being linked with Arsenal? But football has taught us one thing over the years. Never say never. The reason these rumours have suddenly exploded isn't because Vinícius wants to leave tomorrow. Instead, it all revolves around one crucial issue: his contract. According to multiple reports, negotiations between Vinícius Júnior and Real Madrid have reached a significant financial stalemate. Real Madrid reportedly want to reward their superstar with an improved contract worth around 20 million euros net per season. However, Vinícius and his representatives are believed to be asking for approximately 30 million euros annually, a figure that would place him alongside Kylian Mbappe among the club's highest earners. That difference is enormous. Neither side appears ready to compromise immediately. Whenever contract talks between a superstar and his club become complicated, Europe's biggest clubs begin paying attention. Arsenal are reportedly one of those clubs. Sources suggest Arsenal have internally discussed the possibility of making a move should the situation deteriorate. At this stage, there are no official negotiations with Real Madrid. No formal offer has been submitted, no agreement exists. But Arsenal are closely monitoring developments. This is exactly how elite clubs operate. They prepare long before opportunities officially appear. Sporting director Andrea Berta and Mikel Arteta are believed to have approved monitoring several elite players capable of taking Arsenal to the next level. Vinícius fits that profile perfectly. Imagine the pace, imagine the dribbling, imagine the direct attacking threat, imagine defenders trying to stop Bukayo Saka on one wing and Vinícius on the other. It would completely change Arsenal's attack. For years, Arsenal have built one of Europe's youngest and most exciting squads. Adding a player like Vinícius would instantly elevate them into another category. He's only in his mid-20s, but already possesses enormous experience on football's biggest stages. He has delivered in Champions League finals. He has scored decisive goals. He has carried Real Madrid during difficult moments. Those are qualities every ambitious club dreams about. However, there is another side to this story. Recent reports from Spain indicate that Vinícius still wants to remain at Real Madrid. Despite the current disagreement over wages, both parties are expected to resume face-to-face negotiations in an effort to reach a compromise. That means Arsenal are watching rather than actively negotiating. Everything depends on how those contract discussions develop. If Real Madrid and Vinícius reach an agreement, the story likely ends there. If negotiations collapse completely, then Europe's transfer market could explode. And Arsenal would undoubtedly be one of several clubs monitoring every development. Would signing Vinícius be expensive? Absolutely. The transfer fee alone would likely exceed $150 million, while wages would become one of the biggest commitments in Arsenal's history. Such a move would require enormous financial planning. But modern football changes quickly. Unexpected opportunities appear every transfer window. Nobody predicted Harry Kane leaving Tottenham. Few expected Lionel Messi leaving Barcelona. Cristiano Ronaldo's exits from Real Madrid and Manchester United shocked the football world. Transfer markets constantly surprise supporters. That's why Arsenal's interest, even if preliminary, is attracting worldwide attention. While supporters debate Vinícius, another transfer battle is becoming far more realistic. Bruno Guimarães. Unlike Vinícius, Arsenal's pursuit of Bruno appears significantly more advanced. Reports suggest personal terms have already been agreed between Arsenal and the Brazilian midfielder. If accurate, this represents a huge step forward. Agreeing personal terms usually indicates the player is interested in the project and understands his potential role. It doesn't guarantee a transfer, but it removes one of the biggest obstacles. Now attention shifts toward Newcastle United. The Magpies reportedly value their captain at approximately £85 million. Arsenal, meanwhile, are preparing an opening proposal worth around £70 million. That difference is substantial. Newcastle have reportedly described a £70 million valuation as insufficient. From Newcastle's perspective, the stance is understandable. Bruno isn't just another midfielder. He's their captain, their leader, their heartbeat, their biggest midfield star. Selling him would create a massive hole in Eddie Howe's squad, especially after already losing other important players during the transfer window. Newcastle simply don't want to weaken further, but football often comes down to negotiations. Initial offers rarely become final deals. Clubs start lower, selling clubs ask higher. Eventually, both sides search for common ground. That appears to be exactly what could happen here. Reports suggest direct negotiations may intensify over the coming days. Every conversation could bring Arsenal one step closer or push Newcastle further away. Everything remains open. One fascinating aspect is Bruno's reported desire to join Arsenal following Brazil's exit from the 2026 FIFA World Cup. If true, it gives Arsenal an important advantage. When a player genuinely wants the move, negotiations often become easier. Players can encourage clubs to negotiate. Agents can facilitate discussions. Compromises become more achievable. Still, Newcastle remain under no obligation to sell. They hold the contract, they control the negotiations, they decide whether Arsenal's offers are acceptable. So while personal terms may reportedly be agreed, the biggest hurdle still lies ahead. And that's convincing Newcastle to part with one of their most valuable assets. One thing is becoming increasingly clear. Arsenal aren't thinking small anymore. The club is targeting players capable of immediately improving the starting 11. Whether it's Vinícius Júnior or Bruno Guimarães, these are footballers competing at the very highest level. That sends a powerful message. Arsenal want to compete for the Premier League. They want to challenge for the Champions League. They want to build a squad capable of winning major trophies. The coming days could be absolutely crucial. Will Real Madrid solve Vinícius's contract situation? Will Arsenal officially submit their first bid for Bruno? Will Newcastle soften their valuation, or will another European giant enter the race? Those answers could completely reshape Arsenal's transfer window. Stay tuned, because this story is developing rapidly, and if major updates emerge, you'll hear them right here first. Breaking news, Arsenal's double transfer dream continues. The biggest question every Arsenal fan is asking right now is simple. Can Arsenal actually pull off these incredible deals? Let's start with Bruno Guimarães. If Arsenal can reach an agreement with Newcastle, the Brazilian midfielder could become one of the most important signings of Mikel Arteta's era. Bruno is more than just a defensive midfielder. He controls the tempo, wins tackles, creates chances, and brings leadership. Imagine him playing alongside Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice. That could become one of the strongest midfields in Europe. However, Newcastle remain firm. Reports suggest they value their captain at around £85 million, while Arsenal's expected opening bid is closer to £70 million. The gap is still significant, but negotiations are expected to continue, and Arsenal hope a compromise can be reached. Now let's talk about Vinícius Júnior. While Arsenal's interest has generated huge excitement, this deal remains much more complicated. Real Madrid are still expected to hold fresh contract talks with the Brazilian star, and reports indicate Vinícius would prefer to stay at the Santiago Bernabeu if an agreement is reached. For Arsenal, this is a situation to monitor rather than an active transfer. If contract negotiations break down completely, the Gunners could be ready to explore an opportunity. But for now, no official bid has been made. One thing is certain, Arsenal are showing real ambition. Targeting world-class players like Bruno Guimarães and Vinícius Júnior sends a clear message that the club wants to compete for the Premier League and the Champions League. The next few days could be crucial, so stay tuned because this story is far from over. If you enjoyed this update, don't forget to like, subscribe and let us know in the comments. Which signing would you rather see at Arsenal, Bruno Guimarães or Vinícius Júnior? Breaking news! Arsenal's transfer window is heating up. As we reach the final part of today's breaking news, one thing has become very clear. Arsenal are no longer thinking like a club that is simply hoping to compete. They are acting like a club determined to win the biggest trophies in England and Europe. Let's begin with Bruno Guimarães. If Arsenal can convince Newcastle United to negotiate and eventually accept a deal, this could become one of the most important signings of the Mikel Arteta era. Bruno has consistently proven himself to be one of the Premier League's elite midfielders. His ability to win possession, dictate the tempo, play accurate long passes, and contribute with goals and assists makes him a complete midfielder. Imagine an Arsenal midfield featuring Declan Rice, Bruno Guimarães, and Martin Ødegaard. It would combine physicality, creativity, leadership and technical quality. Many supporters believe that trio could compete with any midfield in Europe. But Newcastle United are not giving up easily. The Magpies know exactly how valuable their captain is. Losing Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali earlier in the transfer window has already weakened Eddie Howe's squad. And selling Bruno would leave another massive gap. That's why reports suggest Newcastle are standing firm with a valuation close to £85 million, while Arsenal are preparing an opening offer worth around £70 million. The difference is significant, but this is often how major transfers begin. Opening bids are rarely accepted immediately. Negotiations usually continue over several meetings before both clubs find common ground. Arsenal will hope they can include performance-related bonuses or structured payments to reduce the gap, while Newcastle will push for the highest possible fee. Another important factor is Bruno himself. Reports indicate that the Brazilian international is interested in joining Arsenal and is attracted by Mikel Arteta's long-term project. If that is true, it could play a key role in the negotiations because players often help push deals forward when they are determined to make a move. Now let's turn our attention to the biggest surprise of all, Vinícius Júnior. Few Arsenal fans expected to wake up and see one of the world's best wingers linked with the Emirates Stadium. It sounds like the type of transfer that changes the entire football landscape. However, it is important to understand the current situation. Arsenal are not in advanced talks with Real Madrid. There has been no official bid and no club-to-club negotiations. Instead, Arsenal are carefully monitoring the situation because Vinícius's contract renewal has not yet been finalised. Reports suggest Real Madrid have offered a new deal worth around €20 million net per season, while Vinícius and his representatives are seeking closer to €30 million, similar to the salary earned by Kylian Mbappe. That disagreement has created uncertainty over his long-term future. Despite the speculation, recent reports from Spain indicate that Vinícius still wants to remain at Real Madrid. Both parties are expected to resume face-to-face discussions in an attempt to reach an agreement. If those talks are successful, Arsenal's hopes of signing him will almost certainly disappear. But football is unpredictable. If negotiations collapse, Europe's biggest clubs will be watching closely, and Arsenal could decide the time is right to make an ambitious move. Signing Vinícius would not only require a huge transfer fee, but also one of the biggest wage packages in Arsenal's history. It would be a statement signing that would send shockwaves across world football. Just imagine an attacking lineup featuring Bukayo Saka on the right, Vinícius Júnior on the left, and Arsenal's current attacking stars working together in front of Martin Ødegaard. That kind of firepower would strike fear into almost every defence in Europe. Whether these deals happen or not, one message is already clear. Arsenal are targeting world-class players. The club's ambition continues to grow under Mikel Arteta, and the board appears ready to support him with elite-level additions. The next few days and weeks could be decisive. Will Arsenal submit an official bid for Bruno Guimarães? Will Newcastle soften their demands? Will Vinícius Júnior reach an agreement with Real Madrid? Or will the contract saga take another dramatic twist? Only time will tell. One thing is certain, we'll be following every development, every rumour and every official update as this exciting transfer window unfolds. If you enjoyed today's breaking news, make sure you like the video, subscribe to Arsenal Daily Talk and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Arsenal transfer updates. Who would you sign if you could only choose one? Bruno Guimarães or Vinícius Júnior? Let us know your choice in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, come on, you Gunners! Breaking news. Arsenal's transfer ambition sends shockwaves across Europe. Gunners, the story surrounding Arsenal's transfer plans continues to create huge excitement, and the message from North London is becoming clearer every day. Arsenal are not just looking for squad players. They are searching for difference makers, players who can arrive at the Emirates Stadium and immediately raise the level of the team. That is why names like Bruno Guimarães and Vinícius Júnior have created so much attention. Let's look deeper at what these potential moves could mean for Arsenal. Starting with Bruno Guimarães, this is a transfer that could directly change Arsenal's midfield structure. Mikel Arteta has always valued players who can control matches under pressure. Bruno has shown throughout his Premier League career that he can handle intense battles, dominate midfield areas, and perform in big moments. His leadership qualities are another major attraction. At Newcastle, Bruno has become more than just a player. He became a captain, a fan favourite, and the symbol of the club's new era. Bringing that mentality to Arsenal could add another winning personality to the dressing room. But Newcastle's position remains strong. They know Arsenal are not the only club that would be interested in a player of Bruno's quality. They also understand that replacing a midfielder of his ability would be extremely difficult. That means Arsenal may need patience. Negotiations at this level are rarely simple. There will be discussions about the transfer fee, payment structure, bonuses, and the player's future role. The coming conversations between Arsenal and Newcastle could decide whether this dream move becomes reality. Now, the Vinícius Júnior situation remains the biggest headline. A player of his profile rarely becomes available, and that is why Arsenal are keeping a close eye on the situation. Vinícius represents everything modern football demands from an elite attacker: speed, creativity, confidence, the ability to change a game in one moment. His experience at Real Madrid has also given him the mentality required to perform under the biggest pressure. For Arsenal, a player like Vinícius would not just improve the attack, he would send a statement to the rest of Europe. It would show that Arsenal are ready to compete financially and strategically with the biggest clubs in world football. However, the reality is that Real Madrid remain determined to keep their superstar. The Spanish giants have built their future around elite talents, and losing Vinícius would be a major blow. The upcoming contract talks will be watched closely by football fans worldwide. If an agreement is reached, Vinícius will likely continue his journey in Madrid. But if the situation becomes complicated, clubs like Arsenal will continue monitoring every development. This transfer window could become one of the most important in Arsenal's recent history. The club has already built a strong foundation with young talent, experienced leaders, and a clear football identity. Now, the question is, can they add the final pieces needed to win major trophies? Bruno Guimarães could provide midfield dominance. Vinícius Júnior could provide unstoppable attacking quality. Both players represent the level of ambition Arsenal supporters have been dreaming about. Of course, transfers are never guaranteed until contracts are signed and official announcements are made. Rumours can change. negotiations can collapse. Unexpected clubs can enter the race. But one thing is certain, Arsenal are being mentioned alongside some of the biggest names in world football, and that shows how far the club has progressed. The next chapter of this transfer saga could arrive at any moment. Will Bruno Guimarães become an Arsenal player? Will Vinícius Júnior shock the football world with a move to London? Or will Real Madrid and Newcastle manage to keep their stars? Stay tuned, because Arsenal's summer transfer story is far from finished. If you enjoyed this update, make sure you subscribe to Arsenal Daily Talk, like this video and comment your opinion below. Tell us, Gunners, would you prefer Arsenal to spend big on Vinícius Júnior, or should the club focus on completing the Bruno Guimarães deal until the next update? Come on, you Gunners!